I'd be king one day, but this path is not for me. I'm out. But David continues to move forward, and another distraction pops up in his life that really was already present. The distraction of fear. David's situation was about to go from tense to pretty scared. Let's read in 1 Samuel 19, verse 11. What happens next? Saul sent messengers to David's house to watch him, that he might kill him in the morning. But Michal, or Michael, or however you say it, David's wife, told him, "If you do not escape with your life tonight, tomorrow you will be killed." So Michal let David down through the window, and he fled away and escaped. And David, we read later, he meets up with the prophet Samuel in the city that's far away from his home, far away from his family, so that he can have safekeeping, hiding from Saul, who's trying to kill him, the king of the land. Have you ever feared for your life, or for the life of those who are close to you? As a parent, you're always fearing for the potential dangers that your kids face. Maybe you've had a family member who's gotten sick. Maybe you're afraid of the next step in life because it means that you're kind of removing yourself from your safe place and are encountering a world full of dangers and obstacles, and you never know what could happen if you're not in your safety net. I hope that you've not had to fear much in your life. I know some of you have and are. And for us, we're like the sheep in the pasture. If we're fearful of all the potential, scanning the horizon for every shadow that moves, every monster that could be or could not be out there, we can't rest. We can't truly find rest and take part in the promises that God has for our soul. This was David's distraction. This was David's real life scenario. And I can imagine that it tempted him to turn his focus away from the Lord and onto his problems. But tension and danger weren't the only things that David faced while on the run. David found himself in great need. And you can imagine, if you were to run for your life into the wilderness, David had the risk of starvation and dehydration, sleeping out in the middle of nowhere without any shelter to protect him. Without his basic needs, David could have been very distracted from God's will for his life and unable to rest. I love the popular survival shows that are out today. I mean, they just keep getting better and better, right? But there's this one show called Alone that I love, and these 10 contestants are just scattered across this hostile landscape where they have to fend for themselves, find their own food, find their own shelter, and do it all alone. There's no one else to help them. No camera crew or anything. I love it, but even in these first few nights and weeks, there's so much tension and stress that these contestants face, finding means of providing for themselves. I can imagine that David was unable to focus on his relationship with the Lord because of his need at the time. I don't know what it might be for you. Maybe there's some fear that you have of next month not being able to provide for your needs. The bills are piling up, and you're just not sure you'll have enough to provide for yourself and your family. I've sat down and I've talked to people who were not sure how they were going to find food or groceries for their kids for the rest of the week. I've talked to people who didn't know where they were going to sleep at night, and they're just in terrible places. And the last thing on their mind is their relationship with God. They're so focused on the thing that they're lacking. And maybe that makes sense. And so David at this point is very distracted, I can imagine, by his need. But not only his need, because after the adrenaline begins to wear off, you can imagine after 4 years, of being afraid of Saul, eventually it just gets to this dull, annoying feeling, this agitation, this new distraction in David's life. Because we read in 4 years, David was on the run, tracking thousands of miles. In fact, we have a picture of the map right here. In a second, that'll come up. Of David's journey across the ancient Near East. We'll see that. Robin, you got a picture of that map? Sorry. That's all right. Look at this real quick. I want to show you this. across thousands of miles. You can barely see it, but this green line is all the places that David escaped to and ran from Saul. All of these bullet points are times across the way in which Saul was trying to kill David. I recorded that there about 15 times Saul tried to kill David. That's just crazy. I mean, it gets from the point of being afraid and frightened to this point of being just almost annoyed with Saul. Like, just in this pest that keeps trying to come and get. There's this one show that I love. I probably think all I do is watch TV. It's not true, but there's this one show, Prison Break, that Kayla and I have watched, where these guys are imprisoned by this corrupted, government conspiracy, and so they escape prison, and now their life is just being fugitives on the run while these different agencies try to come and kill them and capture them. And it's like throughout the show, they always get to this place where they're safe, and it seems like things are going to work out. And then all of a sudden, the authorities find them, and they're on the run again. It gets to the point when Kayla and I are watching this, our hopes are built up, and then they're found out. And we're just like, come on, can't you guys just get a break? Come on. Maybe you've said that before. Come on. When things these little pests just hit you from the left and the right. It's one of those weeks, when the car breaks down, and there's a leak in your roof, and an unexpected bill comes in the mail, and the kids get sick, or your parents start nagging you for one thing or another. And all these little things would be okay one at a time, but it just seems like it hits you from side to side, week after week, and you just let out this audible, oh, come on. And the fire and the passion that you had in your life for following your dream, or working hard at your job, or raising your family, or following Jesus just seems to be dampened by the rain that just keeps hitting down on your head. I imagine for David, he felt that same thing. That God's will for his life was becoming this dampened flame that was about to be squelched. We don't really get a whole lot of insight in 1 Samuel about David's perspective on all this. We just get the action points of him running from one place to another. That's why the Psalms are so rich, because it's David's prayer journal through his times of struggle and his times of reflecting back on his life and how God carried him through. And reading the Psalms, we begin to see that David didn't see his life as full of danger and distractions. He saw his life as a life full of God's provision. David chose a reality in which he saw his life as following a good shepherd who made him lie down in green pastures, who led him beside still waters, and who restored his soul. So let's look at David's life again at these episodes and see the ways that David remembers God providing for him. First of all, in the time of tense relationships, when David was working for a boss who was also his father-in-law who was trying to kill him, God provided David with loving relationships. And we find out that Jonathan, the son, the prince of the king, was so tight with David. They were so tight together that the Bible says their souls were knit together. They shared things together. They struggled with one another. They cried with one another. They celebrated with one another. Do you have a friend like that? But you could almost say that your soul is just knit to them. And that is a blessing from God. Well, David didn't only just have his best friend Jonathan. He was also given a wife, the second best wife of Saul. Well, this wife, in particular, Scripture tells us, loved David. In that time, it wasn't common for a wife to love her husband. It was never her choice who she would marry, but Michal loved David. What a blessing. You know what it's like to have, if you don't know what it's like to have a loving spouse, and it is just a blessing. Maybe you've had that friend who's been with you in a tense time. Your relationships are just crumbling, and this is the person that you're just able to vent to on the phone. Or you're just able to grab a cup of coffee with, and they'll sit there listening to you for an hour straight of you just complaining, and they're just nodding their head, and after it all, they're like, yeah, you're so right. They are crazy. You just need that friend in your life. That is a blessing from God. And when David looked back on his life of tension, his time of tension, he saw the blessing of love and relationships. Well, David, in the time of fear, when he was running for his life, knowing that Saul was trying to kill him, David probably reflected on the time that God miraculously protected him from Saul's sword. Let me just summarize this story for you in chapter 19. David was on the run. He had met up with Samuel in this far-off village, and Saul caught wind of it. And so Saul was going to send his version of the KGB after David, chase him down, to hunt him down, and to kill him. So Saul sends these guys into this village. And these guys, they come into the village, and they enter the place where David is staying, and they find Samuel's prophets worshiping and prophesying to God. And so, in that moment, when they see David, the Spirit of God just takes over these guys, and they begin worshiping and praising God right alongside of David. Well, 2 more times this happened. Saul sent men in, and they joined the worship service, and they started prophesying and worshiping God. And then Saul was like, all right, these guys can't get it done. I'm going to go to this village where I know David is staying, and I'm going to get him myself. So Saul makes the trip. He shows up, and he sees this worship service happen. And Saul, it says, the Spirit of God invaded Saul's heart, and he began to worship and prophesy to God as well. And he not only did that, he took off all of his clothes and lay prostrate on the ground at the feet of the prophet Samuel, while David escaped. For 24 hours, Saul laid there naked, worshiping God, because the Spirit of God was upon him. There's even this joke that the Jews told years later. Was not Saul also one of our prophets? I mean, that's how God just overwhelmingly protected David in a time of trouble. Can you think of a scary moment in your life or a tragedy that's happened along the way? Maybe there was a time in your life where there was danger and you just didn't even know it, because when you look back, you see how God protected you. You see how God took care of you. And you can chalk it up to nothing less than miraculous. Well, in David's time of need as well, God provided him. When David was running throughout the wilderness, God provided food in the form of the holy bread that was kept in the tabernacle. God provided shelter in various caves and villages and cities throughout the way of foreign peoples. Not only that, God provided David with community. Maybe one of the things that we just don't think about much is our need as people for friends. Our need for community. Well, Scripture says that when David was hiding away, listen to what it says. It says, as David departed and escaped to the cave of Adullam, and when his brothers and all his father's house heard it, they went down to meet him. And everyone who was in distress, and everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was bitter in soul, gathered to David, and he became the commander over all of them. And there were about 400 men. So in a time in David's life when he was most alone, God provided him with over 400 people who believed in him, who stood behind him, and were going to help him in his distress. When I think of the way that God has provided for our church, it's just amazing. A year ago at this time, we were struggling to pay our bills, and even there was a week that came up where we weren't able to pay Pastor Josh around this time of year. It was a scary time. But you know what? God provided for us in huge ways. Not only that, God provided for our upstairs renovation. We didn't have the money to create a kids space for our ever-growing kids ministry. But God provided it in means that we didn't even see coming. And we were able to finish the project with extra help ahead of time. We were able to do it with a surplus in our bank account. God provided for us through the means of your generous giving and volunteering. And people that we didn't even know came in and helped us. God provides for his people. We're walking in his will. And this morning, maybe there are some of you who are concerned about your needs. Well, I want you to know, again, Jesus never promises that following his will, being obedient, is going to be easy. And that there won't be times where you are in need. But if you are obedient to God, he is going to give you everything that you need. There's nothing that can separate you from what God's plan is for you in your life. If you are obedient and if you are faithful, you'll be provided for. David knew this to be true, and he also knew that God provided for him in his agitation. For 4 years of running and thousands of miles of escaping Saul's sword, God provided clarity for David. You know, like we said before, in our lives, when we're just hit from side to side with things that just distract us and dampen our fire in our hearts for living for and serving God, the thing that always brings us back is the reminder of our destiny in the Lord. The reminder that God has plans to make us prosper. God has plans for us to complete His will. God sees us as valuable. And sometimes just a reminder puts us back on course. Well, in David's life, David got a reminder of God's plan for his life through his best friend Jonathan. And in chapter 23 it says that Jonathan, Saul's son, rose and went to David at Horesh, and strengthening his hand in God. And he said to him, "Do not fear the hand of Saul, my father, because he shall not find you. You shall be king over Israel, and I shall be next to you. Saul, my father, he knows this." And the two of them made a covenant before the Lord. David remained at Horesh, and Jonathan went back home. In Romans chapter 8, the Apostle Paul, one of my favorite chapters in all of the New Testament, the Apostle Paul says, "These temporary sufferings that all of us face are nothing worth comparing to the eternal weight of glory of which God has called us and has in store for us." Refreshing reminders of God's will for us sometimes is all that is needed to help us overcome the distractions and find true rest for our souls. So what's distracting you this morning? What's drawing the energy and the passion and the fire from your soul? What's keeping you from experiencing the grace of God and the rest that can restore your soul? Do you sympathize with David in that your relationships just seem to be a wreck and there's just no peace in your relationships with your family or your friends or at work? Are you feeling fearful today about the future? Are there things, unknowns in your life that you just can't wrap your mind around? Are you in need? Are you not sure that you'll be able to provide for yourself or your family? Or that by the end of the month you'll have everything that you need to pay your bills? Is there some sort of agitation that's distracting you? Some sort of pain in your side, an annoying pest, like a nagging feeling of shame or guilt, or whatever, that's distracting you from God's will for your life? The question all comes down to something simple. You know, you can't control the circumstances that are brought into your life. No one can control those things. But what you can control, and the question that's important, is which reality are you going to live in? Are you going to live in the reality that there is danger just beyond sight? That there is possibility that things could go bad at every turn? Or are you going to live in the reality that the Good Shepherd is leading you? The Good Shepherd who is able and who loves you. Philip Keller, the guy that I was telling you about before, who wrote this book, who was a shepherd himself, reflects on his time as a shepherd, seeing how his presence changed the reality for the sheep within his care. He says this about his Good Shepherd, Jesus Christ. He says, "In the midst of our misfortunes, there suddenly comes an awareness that He, the Christ, the Good Shepherd, is there. It makes all the difference. His presence in the picture throws a different light on the whole scene. Suddenly things are not half so black or nor half so terrifying. The outlook changes and there's hope. I find myself delivered from fear, rest returns, and I can finally relax." So friends, the bad news for you today is that you can't always change your circumstances. You won't have enough power to protect yourself and all your loved ones from trials and struggles that might pop up in life. That's the bad news, but the good news is even better. The good news makes it all better. That the shepherd knows you and loves you, and he will provide for you and protect you and bring you comfort in times of trouble. And so, maybe what's keeping you from receiving that grace isn't your circumstance, but it's your habit to not think about and not seek the Lord in every matter of your life. Not asking Him for help, not seeking. Jesus says, whenever you seek, you'll find it. Whenever you knock, the door will be opened unto you. And if you ask for anything in the Lord's name, it will be given to you. And if you believe that and know that reality, then no longer can any of these distractions affect you. So as we close this morning, I want to give you a couple seconds where we just go to the Good Shepherd and we ask for Him to bring us that provision, to open our eyes and show us that He is there. Because where the Lord is, there is no longer fear. So friends, would you pray with me? Father, some of us in here today, there are some people in here who are afraid. There are some in here who are agitated. There are some in here whose fire for you is nearly extinguished. And so, Father, for these friends of mine, I pray that you and your presence would become a clear reality to them, as clear as the sun is in the sky. Father, we know that even in your silence, that your love, your presence is with us. We know that you are a God who is able to overcome every one of our trials. So we ask, Father, that you would help us. Thank you, Jesus, for being our good shepherd, for bringing us life, true life, leading us into the rest that our Father has for us. We pray now that your Spirit would restore our soul. Wherever there is wounds, wherever there is brokenness, may your Spirit heal us. Jesus, we come to you today and we thank you and we love you. And it's in your name that we pray. Amen.
And you provide everything for us, Lord, when it's dry, when we are full of trials or tribulations or have a huge decision to make. God, your will is perfect. God, help us to rest in you. Help us, Lord, just to give you all our trust, put our full faith in your plan for our lives, God, no matter what it is. Help us to have the strength to push through those trials, Lord, because in the end, we'll be with you, and none of this stuff will matter a whole lot. God, we love you and thank you for this time. Lord, amen. All right, everyone, have a great week. We'll take some help holding up the chairs and putting them in the back room. Don't forget about the onions. Please say onions. Thank you.
I don't want it either. I'll take care of it. Take an onion. Oh, really good. Okay, everything the rest. And Debbie tried. Let's take these over to the door and set them up. Nobody does. It'll be our